You good? Yeah? Well, good morning. We're coming to you today from the biggest hole in the city. We've literally dug a big hole 50 metres below the city. It had to be this deep so that the Cross River Rail tunnels could go below everything else in the city, all of the car parks and sewerage and infrastructure. This is where the new Albert Street City Station will be. It will draw passengers from the Mall and Albert Street, from the Botanic Gardens and the QUT precinct, and of course from Queen's Wharf, Brisbane, when it's built in coming years. The fantastic team here, there's been 250 folk working on the station. They've excavated 47,000 cubic metres of spoil. They've put in 1,500 bolts to hold the hole here in place. And one day this spot will be bustling with 67,000 passengers coming and going from our city. It gives you a sense of how, with these projects and in the lead up to the Olympic Games in 2032, we are completely transforming Brisbane, making it an even better place to live, an even better place to get around, to get to and from work. Cross River Rail is a fantastic project that we are really pleased to be delivering, and Graham Newton's the CEO. He'll have a bit more to say about it.
Thanks, Stephen. First of all, thanks everyone for coming. I know it's a bit of a hike down the stairs. Back in 2019, we started the demolition of the building. There was a 6-storey building on this site, and it was demolished, and then we've progressively gone through the excavation. Now, that's taken about 2 years to get to this point. This marks the final of our 4 underground stations. We are 50 metres below ground, and then when the station gets built, it will be built right up, and then a further 50 metres or thereabouts above ground will be what happens. So imagine from where we stand now, more or less 100 metres above us will be construction work will go on. This work has taken like 2 years, as I said, and that's about 47,000 cubic metres is around about the size of 19 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So that excavation is around 19 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Where we are now, though, is really at the bottom of the excavation. The tunnels where we're standing adjacent to are actually through that wall. Now, there, the platform level will be about 31 metres below ground, and to get there you'll go down a series of escalators which will take you to a mezzanine level, which will then take you onto the platform itself, to a modern station with platform screen doors, and we'll be seeing trains come through that in a safe and a smooth way when the project is delivering and operating in 2025. Thank you.
Any questions? So the entire station building will be 100 metres above, will go 100 metres above this location. Pedestrians will be drawn, as I said, from Albert Street and from the Botanic Gardens and into the pedestrian tunnels that you can see here. They'll come down escalators to a platform that will be above our heads, and that's where the trains will arrive on those tunnels. It's all obviously very detailed engineering based on the inclines that the trains can travel, and of course avoiding all of that other infrastructure around the city that we needed to bring the tunnels in below. Yeah, certainly historically our city train stations have been a bit distant from where the density has ultimately built up here in the bend of the river, and so one of the objectives of Cross River Rail is to bring the rail network much closer to the heart of the city. Here it's, as I say, located between the Mall, the Botanic Gardens and Queen's Wharf, Brisbane. We'll have a much better pedestrian network by the time Cross River Rail is completed, people will be able to, for example, walk across from South Bank to Queen's Wharf, Brisbane, down here to Albert Street. There'll be a new link from the bottom of the Botanic Gardens over to Kangaroo Point. So we really are, with this project, with Queen's Wharf, Brisbane, with everything that we are doing in the lead up to the 2032 Games, changing and making it better to get around our city. Well, now they start work on the permanent buildings, the foundations, and then building upwards. I'm happy to get Graham to talk in a bit more detail about what that looks like.
So, yes, last year was the year of tunnelling. We've definitely switched now into the year of the station build and the tunnel fit out. So the focus now will be to turn this whole into a modern railway station, including all of the ventilation, fire protection, and then you move into the front of house where people will come through, lifts, escalators and so forth. So that will happen over the next couple of years. In the meantime, the tunnel itself will be fitted out with all of the technology that's required to allow modern trains to pass through that tunnel. The rail has already been delivered and is in the process of being prepared for installation, and that will happen over the next couple of years. So the focus now is moving from the tunnelling phase to very much the station build and the tunnel fit out. This is the deepest hole ever built in Brisbane, and the rock here is very solid. It's very hard rock, and so what that required was some very good precision engineering to come through with blasting. And I guess while we're talking about it, I want to express appreciation to the local residents around this area. This has been a significant project right in the middle of the city. The challenge is working with our neighbours and working closely with our neighbours, but at the end of the day we've got to get through this rock and get down. So moving to this next phase and moving to the build out means there'll be less about breaking rock and more about building up a station. Yeah. So this area here where we are will be where the back of house or the ventilation, the power that goes into the stations, and they go through this large adit over to this side here. So when pedestrians come down, they'll come down to that 30 metres below ground and go across to the mezzanine, whereas all of the stuff that's below is all of those things that keep the ventilation, the air conditioning, the electricity and so forth, and then that comes through here and then up the back of the station building. Every time I go into one of these project sites, it blows me away. It is an amazing feat of engineering. It's an incredible achievement to do what we're doing in the middle of the city, and the total project is mind-blowing from an engineering perspective, but also it's going to change the city and the way we move around in the future.
Sure. Look, I'm contractually restricted from being able to reference a specific figure, but that figure is in the public domain. When it comes to the opposition criticising this, well, they've criticised every element of our health response throughout this entire pandemic, so I'm not surprised that they continue to criticise this one. There have been a lot of stages of the pandemic where our response has required doing what we think might be necessary without necessarily knowing if it will. And, you know, we've seen throughout the pandemic two different approaches. We've taken a be prepared approach. The Morrison government has taken a wait and see what happens approach. And I think the be prepared approach has served us much better. There have been a lot of stages where I've really hoped that what we were doing wouldn't be necessary. You know, there were months there where we were scouring the world to buy every single available ventilator, and that cost money. But ultimately, we didn't need those ventilators. I don't regret buying them one iota. They are in our system. They will be available, and if we had have needed them, they would have been there to treat Queenslanders. Thankfully, we didn't need them. Well, certainly when we made that decision, it was after months and months and months of calling on the Commonwealth Government to step up and do what they should have done, which was build a quarantine facility. We, in the end, decided to go it on our own. We got it built. It's open now. The Commonwealth eventually agreed that it was their responsibility to do it. They started building one, and they've told us that it will be accessible in June. So, look, throughout this pandemic, we have always endeavoured to make sure that Queensland was more prepared than anywhere else in the world, and that is what stood us in good stead. And look, it's no surprise to still have the LNP out there bagging our health response, criticising everything that we have done. But I know when Queenslanders see that bloke on TV whinging about how we were more prepared than we needed to be, well, that just reminds them that we were very well prepared and that we did very well. I can't hear exactly what you're saying, but I'll answer generally about hospital access, if you like. In the last week or so, we've seen continuing record demand on our hospital system. That's not too surprising. This is the time of year where hospital demand usually does ramp up, peaking towards the middle of the year. That happens every year, even when we don't have COVID cases in the community. We do still have COVID cases in the community. I think still hundreds of people in our hospitals. Most of our major hospitals still have entire wards dedicated to COVID patients. So that's still having an impact on the supply of beds. We also still have a large number of staff affected by the close contact and COVID positive isolation rules. Around 300 health staff are currently furloughed, including 167 paramedics. I can, though, report that even though they're getting between 3,000 and 3,800 000 calls a day, 93% are being answered within 10 seconds. The average wait time to transfer from an ambulance into an emergency department was 33 minutes. That compares to our target of 30 minutes. So, yes, we do want to continue to do better. We do want to continue to meet those targets, but I can say our paramedics, our health staff, our hospital staff, they're all doing a fantastic job at what is a challenging time for our health system. I can keep going.